welcome to the channel. This is Dr. Keisha, and I am here to give you the church news. This is actually part two of that because the first video was relatively a little over an hour, a little under an hour rather. I thought that maybe I'll do this into two parts. So this is technically part two of the conversation. And so I'm just sharing some news information that is already, I think, to a certain extent, it's becoming viral. I don't think it's viral as of yet, but I do know that it is news and that it has been shared. There's some sources that I'm going to share with you in just a few moments that will, kind of help to explain some things. So in the previous video, we focused on Pastor Tony Evans. And during that time, we talked about him resigning as pastor due to let me just make sure that my screen is being shared, due to indiscretion, some form of indiscretion. Within the statement that he provided here, there was no mention of what the indiscretion was. Okay, so if you Google Dr. Tony Evans, you will find the statement on Twitter. That's where, on X, that's where I got it from. You'll find it there. Now, on this particular video, I really want to talk about, and again, watch the first one because it will help you to kind of understand what approach we're taking to this. Essentially, the approach that I'm taking is that none of us are perfect. And I believe that the longer that we are around each other, there are going to be some things that come up, failures and all. These things, will come up. And we need to deal with them accordingly. You know what I mean? We need to deal with them accordingly. So let me share my screen and let's talk about it. And so the second part will be on Ron Parsley. Now, most of us, I believe, know Pastor Ron Parsley. Again, another leader that has been a staple in the church, in Christendom for quite some time. And it's unfortunate that, due to technology, and that's part of it, I believe if these sins, obviously, if they would have happened and if we didn't have the type of technology that we currently have, it would just be dealt with locally or amongst their organizations or church people groups or what have you, amongst their hub of people. Maybe a few outside, folks may know, or maybe the local community may know, or something like that. And then, time would eventually bring about some type of change. But unfortunately, since we are all interconnected by the World Wide Web, we are all interconnected internationally. So whatever thing comes out, news, allegations, whatever comes out, it will hit everybody that is connected to the internet. People are going to find out about it. All right. And so with that being said, I'm just going to share my screen. What the conversation that is currently being had about Pastor Ron Parsley has to do with his behavior, and it has to do with some audio that was leaked. Okay. So there was some audio that was leaked by, I'm assuming, a person that was present for the situation or the incident. Someone decided to record him. It's not as a matter of fact, I think I did see a video as well as hear the audio. But the funny thing, at least with me, you can tell me what you think or if you heard it or not. But I couldn't completely understand all of the audio. this isn't what this particular channel that is on YouTube is not where I saw the first, you know, it wasn't the thing that exposed me to this channel is not where I first heard it from. I actually heard it from another channel, but I did a search just like I said in the first video. If you just simply do a search, it's already out here. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that to say I'm not spreading gossip or anything like that. We're just going to have the conversation about the fact that the church leaders and the people, from the pulpit to the door, are not perfect. And the longer we're here on this earth, the longer we're around each other, some stuff is going to come up. And I'm not saying that we should give it a pass. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it should be ignored or people should just continue on. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that whatever judgments need to happen, by all means, let them happen. God in everything. God should be leading us in everything, whether it's correcting a leader, whether it's correcting a layperson. God should be in all of that, Whatever matters that we need to judge, we have to judge righteously. And then we have to judge people with a certain measure. You know what I mean? Because we can't have favoritism and I think that's part of the problem with a lot of these things that are coming out. I do feel like some leaders do get a pass when they probably shouldn't get a pass, or there may have been behaviors that have been accepted for a lot of years, and we don't hold the leaders accountable. We just say, oh, that's bishop, oh, that's apostle, oh, that's first lady, and we excuse the behaviors when we should have called them out on it, you know what I mean, in a way that is righteous and holy as a brother and sister in Christ. But they should be held accountable. And if they're doing something or saying something that is offensive, then it should be like we say, you leave your gift at the altar and you go to that person. It doesn't matter whether it's the leader. It doesn't matter whether it's the leader's wife. You go to that person, you have a conversation. Should you have the conversation respectfully? Sure, you should have it respectfully, but you should have the conversation. And if that leader is not willing to admit whatever needs to be admitted, and even if it's to their part, because some people can provoke you. Again, the church is a people business. We know everyone that's having to deal with people, whether it's customers, whether it's in a school with kids, it can be very complex. It is not easy. We're not easy. All right, we're not easy, but it is doable. But the only way we're going to be able to coexist is if we're honest and if we hold one another accountable. So I say, okay, this person decide to record him. And in the recordings is being described as a verbal abuse. They're saying abusive behavior is more like a verbal abuse, a verbal lashing. For most of us that have been in a church, we've been talked to crazy, and or we've heard other people talk to crazy by leaders. Let's just tell the truth. This is not the first time. And so, yeah, we're hearing audio. The truth of the matter is that if they would have recorded your leader, you would have recorded your leader 10 or 15 years ago. The same effect, perhaps, if you were a notable preacher, if you had a reputation, if you had the notoriety as Pastor Rod Parsley, that incident may have become, viral. All right. Does that make it okay? No, it doesn't. All I'm saying is we're not perfect. And so he was caught saying some stuff. When I say caught, meaning someone decided to videotape. Now, there was no explanation. The first video, the only video that I saw concerned, this is, like I said, this video right here, this channel. Shout out to Chris, the Berean apologist. Shout out to this channel. I haven't watched it, so this is probably going to be more like a reaction video. But I did hear, like I said, the audio of what would be perceived as some type of verbal abuse. I felt that he was testy. I've heard worse. I'm gonna be honest. I've heard worse. All right. So maybe over the course of time, maybe people are kind of getting fed up. You know what's interesting also? You would think that as we grow older, that we will become more seasoned and our words will become more seasoned with grace. But sometimes people that have been in the church for a while, they become even more mean, disgruntled people. less of the Holy Spirit that they had 20 years ago. So, again, being in the church world, if you will, the body of Christ for as long as that I've seen all kinds of stuff. Stuff was said to me, and I was treated like some ways that it would not, should not be in the church of God. So what I'm trying to say is, people are people. I don't care what kind of title a person has, and I'm not saying that it's okay, because it is not. But what I am saying, that we can all foster environments and we make it easy for people to do what they do, because we're not honest and we don't call folks out. I'm not saying call them out in the midst of the anger or the rage, or in the midst of the foolishness. I'm not saying that when that person eventually has a cooler head, when that person is having a good day, that person needs to be pulled to the side. There should be some elders that can go to, Pastor Parsley and say, hey, Pastor, we're just noticing that you've been very short with the saints, and you've been very strong with your language, and you've said some things that you should not have said. And you know what? Hey, maybe it takes him having a conversation with, maybe it's a certain person that may rub you the wrong way. Again, let's live. The church, again, it consists of people, and people behaviors, personalities, okay? And not every personality meshes. Sometimes they repel. Sometimes you don't get along. Sometimes you aggravate one another. But the truth of the matter is that it also helps to develop us. See, situations like this, if it's handled in the right way, it may produce righteousness. Since it has been brought to the open, maybe that is a warning shot from the Most High to say, hey, my son, my son, you're not to treat the sheep this way. Watch your tone, and maybe the Holy Spirit has whispered it. Maybe the Holy Spirit elevated the voice just a little bit more. Maybe God sent a warning or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 for the past 10 or 20 years. And maybe there's been no change. And so now we have an audio. Now we have a video. Now everybody is seeing what's going on locally when we have no business seeing or hearing the things that we're seeing and hearing. And so now we're having a conversation about it. Again, leaders are not perfect. Leaders will say things and do things that they should not do, because they are in their sinful flesh, just like you're in your sinful flesh. And just because they're leaders, again, it's not an automatic that they're perfected in certain areas. They're still growing and developing. They may not be at the same level. They should not be at the same level as lay members, as their sheep that they're shepherding. But there may be an area that's not perfected. And that's why you're around me. I'm having to deal with you, because that very thing that I'm weak in is you're around specifically to help to strengthen that weak area. If I'm having a hard time loving a certain type of person, God may have sent you to my ministry just so that I can be taught how to love you, and so that my love can be perfected. And guess what? It takes trouble. It takes adversity. It takes disagreements and arguments and strife sometimes. You know what I'm saying? In order for me to see, oh my gosh, there's something in my heart towards this person, and I don't want this to remain there. I want to get it right. So if it's to the point where now we're having a national conversation about a particular leader because some information has come to the forefront, more than likely God has tried to pull their coattail many a times, and they're just refusing to adhere. Now, we've seen over the years, for those of us that have seen or followed his ministry or just simply know about his ministry, times that he's come, even he's been a televangelist. He's hosted programs, and we've seen him apologizing, crying on air. We're all a work in progress. So let's kind of hear what's going on. It's a relatively short audio recording. It's only 5 minutes. I'm going to stop and pause and talk just because I don't want my video to be flagged. And I'll be more than happy to just, again, cite my source. I forgot Rod Parsley's church is the World Harvest Center. All right, so let's go ahead and try to listen to some of this, y'all, okay? And then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Again, all have sinned, none are perfect, and that includes our leader. But we have a responsibility to hold our leaders accountable. So I feel like this, if this has been happening for years and we've allowed it to happen and we did not pull our brother or our sisters to the side, then I feel like we have, just like we're trying to hold him accountable, I feel like that we have just as much, you know what I'm saying, a part in this as he does, because we allowed it to be. And then now we fostered an environment by which this has become the norm. So if he's been talking to you this way for years, or talking to people this way for years, and no one has been bold enough to say, as an elder of the church or as a layperson, you can go and have the conversation. If you felt offended, go and say, you know what, Pastor, I love you, but there are times when you talk to me a certain type of way, and I feel like that's not godly. We have to learn to tell the truth. We do. We can't put these leaders or anybody on a pedestal. We can't, because no one is perfect. And this is not a reason to leave God and Christ. Maybe that's not the church for you. Maybe, okay, maybe that's what God is saying, or maybe he's not. But you should seek the Lord. You know what I mean? You should ask him, inquire of him before you just jump ship. I don't like the way I'm leaving. That might be a part of your process. Trust me, I know. Okay, I know we are in the people business. It is not easy dealing with each other. It's not. And it goes both ways. Trust it. It can be members that are nasty. You know what I mean? It can be members that are very smart mouthed and disrespectful, but you still gotta love them. You know what I mean? You still gotta entreat them. And for leaders, there's even more expectation for you to be on the love train, and treat them perfectly and appropriately because you're a leader. You understand? Despite of how they are to you. So sometimes you have that dynamic. It may be at smaller, organizations, smaller churches and whatnot, especially when you are dependent on the people and they know they're the highest tithe payer, and so they're gonna come in when they want to, they're gonna do what they want because who gonna check me, boo? That's the attitude that they have. So there are times when lay people will have that spirit on them, and then there are times when leaders will say, I'll do what I want, because I'm known, and in any church, any organization would love to have me, but I chose to be here. And they take on that arrogance. There's such an ego. It can be the same way where it can be a lay person that feels like that. Again, listen, if this monkey wasn't here, it's going to stop the show, and or it can be leaders that have that attitude. All right. And so let's listen. Let's what is the hype about? All right, let's go into it. All right. I'm sorry, y'all. Let's hold on. Hold on. Bible True Champ.
Who called me?
I want to make sure.
Who called me? You didn't.
Right, I didn't call me. But right. I was in the meeting.
Here's not we.
Okay.
I know who called me because I told them to.
Yes.
Because I knew you wouldn't. And you didn't.
But we're ready for baptism.
No, you're not.
I think. Well,
no, you're not.
Well, let me walk it through.
You're going to take me 10 minutes to prove to you you're not.
Okay, then. Whatever you say, sir.
Are you being smug with me?
No, I'm not. I'm saying whatever you
Don't.
say. I'm not being smug. No, I'm not.
Don't.
I'm not.
One more person grins at me. One more person smirks at me in this room. It will be the last one of you that does it.
Okay, so one of the things about God and truth and justice, we don't know what happened before this, and we don't know what happened after. All right. We don't have that information. All we have is the conversation. I don't know what's in this video, like I forestated, because I didn't see this video. I actually saw it on someone else's channel, and I'll be sure to reference the source. I'll be sure of that. Fair use, fair use, fair use. All right. So I'm not sure, you're not sure unless you were present. And if you were, then feel free to hit me up if you would like to come on and we can have the conversation. But we don't know exactly what happened leading up to this. And so that's the part about recordings, because I've seen it to where people try to bait people into acting out a character, and then, them capturing it. You know what I'm saying? And then playing it in, but you may have cussed them out to capacity. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll press the record button when it's time for you to make a rebuttal to what it is that you done said first. And then you're looking innocent in the recording because you know that you're recording, right? And then, but the other person, they don't know, they don't realize that they're being recorded. And in some states, it's against the law to do that, by the way. And so we really have to be careful of the recording, because again, if you are being that person where you're provoking the person and then you're just capturing them out of character, but yet you played a part in that, I feel like that God is a just judge and he will judge you accordingly. Now, if you are, again, I don't know how it got out. I don't know, like, if it's the person that he's speaking to that decided to record, or whether this is something that somebody that's doing on that person's behalf. We don't have any information as of yet. More information may come out. He may decide to say something about it. As of right now, I don't have any information. Maybe I'll do some more digging after I'm done with this recording. All I'm saying is this. Does it sound bad? Yes. I've heard worse, but we haven't finished. I put the captions in so you can see it too. I'm just going to move me out of the way. Let me see if I can kind of move me at a place where, let me move me at the top. And so that way I don't block it. And then if you wanted to open this all the way up on a computer, you'll be able to see that you can see the caption on this, because it's kind of hard to hear. For me, it is at least hard to hear what the person is saying, because their voice seems to be distorted a little bit, where his seems to be more clear. So that's also, to me, a little kind of a red flag there as well, that maybe he was being set up here. I don't know. I'm not sure. But again, if he's been talking that way, then more than likely, maybe this is the way that he does talk to them, because they don't seem to be surprised. You know what I mean? They don't seem to be surprised by this. So if this has become the norm, right? If this has become a part of the toxic environment there at the church. And like I said, churches can be something else. Trust and believe me, I know. But to me, we have to hold our leaders accountable, just like our leaders need to hold themselves accountable. And if this has been going on for so long that it's become a norm, then I feel like everybody needs to be rebuked. That includes the staff, for allowing it to happen for so long. Now, if they say we have come to him, we have told him, we have tried to hold him accountable. If a person that serves there comes out and says, I've written letters, I've pulled him to the side, I've had a meeting, this and that, and still no change, then, God has a way. Because if you've done everything the Bible tells you, you've left your gift at the altar, you went to the person, okay, and you try to reconcile in the person, the Bible talks about what the next steps would be. If you do, then you bring a witness, and then if they refuse to adhere, if they refuse to reconcile, if they refuse to, then the Bible says bring them before the church. So God does give us the steps on how to deal with these types of circumstances, deal with these types of situations when there is an offense, when there's issues. Even if the pastor has to be brought before the church, then bring the pastor before the church. I just feel like there's no big I's and little U's in the kingdom. I don't care. Everybody is a servant. Everybody is a child of God. And the Bible talks about how you should treat the sheep. You're not to mistreat the sheep because you're a shepherd. because in the truth, they're really God's people, not yours. You're just there temporarily should be doing the work of the Lord on his behalf. But you are not to abuse the sheep, and then it's not for the sheep to abuse the leader. Okay, vice versa. It's the same. So you do see this dynamic where there could be church members that are unruly, disrespectful, dishonoring. They're there to stir up trouble and whatever. And then you'll have leaders that are despicable tyrants. They want to be kings and rulers instead of servants. And so you do have those dynamics. All right, so let's continue to listen. Lord have mercy. He doesn't want to see anybody smirk, and he's really being tough on this guy. And I guess he's unhappy about, I think they're trying to make preparation for baptism. Now, considering the topic that he's upset about, that they're not being prepared, it's good that they're baptizing people, but the wrong spirit is throughout this recording. If your spirit has to be right. What you only do for Christ will last. But if you're not doing it in the right spirit, please know that it's as if you haven't done anything at all, even though the person is receiving baptism and that's something that they need. Don't be a throwaway. Don't be a castaway. Paul says, it's for me to serve, and then I myself may be a castaway. So we can be leaders and serve the people and give and make sacrifices, and then we lose out on the kingdom because we trip up and cut up. All right. So don't do that. Don't make all these sacrifices and serving the people and, having to deny yourself and your family and all these years, and then get to the finish line and don't make it through because of ego and pride and unforgiveness and all these other things as leaders. Lord have mercy. Let's listen.
The money that is being spent in this room is obscene for what I'm getting. Obscene. I hired people to run entire sections of this place, not hold their hand through a baptism, much less what I just went through. Are you ever going to learn not to backtalk me?
So I guess he's talking to a particular person, and he's saying that the person is backtalking him. Okay. Again, we don't have the recording of, the beginnings of this, and we don't know what led up to him being so upset and irate. But yeah.
Because it's been a year and you still haven't learned.
Okay, so this person has been there for a year, and obviously he's a part of their whoever he's speaking to has been he's functioning as a servant leader. Okay, so it's been a year. So I'm assuming they're not new, because you generally, you don't get that close to the pastor and you've only been there for a year. Like generally you're there a little bit longer, and then, you're elevated, you're given more responsibility over time. Generally, they don't give a novice or someone that has been newly saved a lot of responsibility. I mean, you can volunteer and stuff like that, but they don't give you a leadership. Like, you're not a servant leader. There's a difference, right? You're more, of a servant to a servant leader. You're volunteering and kind of being a helping hand and learning until you're ready to get in position. So I'm assuming that though this person has been in their position for a year, but I'm assuming they're not like newly saved or anything like that. I'm just making the assumption. I don't know the dynamic of this relationship, but I know that he's very upset at this person that he's speaking to.
You didn't call me, did you?
No, I did not.
Right. But you just said you did.
No, it's not me.
No, that you said that the third time.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard in the background, someone said, can we move on? Because let's keep it 100. The tone in which he's speaking to adults. I'm assuming they're all adults. These are not children. And if they were children, I don't think it would be appropriate to talk to someone else's children in that manner. So the tone, him being berated by him, obviously it's a group of people that are present. It's not just him. And even if they were alone, that still would not be acceptable. So a person was like, can we move on? Now, I don't know who that person is, but obviously they felt comfortable enough to interject. And I don't think that person was corrected, but we can try to listen and see. But they felt comfortable enough to make that statement, and we'll see. Did he, Pastor Parson, did he respond to that person saying, "Can we move on"? Let's see what happens.
No, because not everybody, constantly wants to argue with you.
I don't want to argue with you. I'm not here to argue with you.
I would hope not.
I'm not. 100% I'm not, sir. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to get the job done to help you in this vision. That's why I'm here. I'm not doing anything, sir.
How much time did you spend on this Saturday?
One which part?
Any of it?
I don't know.
Did you spend an hour?
At least 2 or 3. I did spend on Saturday. And I spent hours on Sunday. I didn't leave here till Friday night at 8 p.m. Sunday I worked. Yesterday I worked. I'm not trying to, you asked me when I'm working on it. So.
Sunday at 8 p.m.?
No, Friday 8 p.m. On the Friday 8 p.m. Saturday I worked 2 hours.
Friday 8 p.m.? So what?
No.
Okay, so again, he's asking it seems like he's speaking to a guy. So we can make that assumption. Even though his voice seems to be distorted. I'm going to make the assumption that he's recording, but I'm kind of have to make the assumption that he's recording. Somebody real close to him. But anyway, he asked him the question about Saturday. And at first he said he didn't know. Okay. Now, he may have said he didn't know because he just didn't want to argue with him. He felt like, the pastor was being argumentative. He didn't want to go back and forth. So he just said, I don't know. That could have been I just, instead of just answering the question and saying, you know what, I think I was maybe 2 or 3 hours or so. But not only did he say 2 or 3 hours for Saturday, but he also included what hours that he worked on Friday as well as Sunday. So, and I think he's upset about something not being done, but clearly the person tells the pastor that he's been actively preparing for whatever it is that he needed to be done. So if he's only been there a year, one would have to question, did he know like what needed to be done, what needed to be done specifically? Were there other people also involved in preparing, or was he the one that was heading this task? Like, again, questions and questions, and we don't have answers. We really don't. But let's continue to listen. I mean, obviously this is coming from somewhere. He's, when I say he, meaning Pastor Parsley, why he's talking this way, and obviously there's a feeling that's attached to it. There's an emotion that's attached to it. Why he's feeling that way and articulating himself in this manner. Why is he choosing to do that? That is the question of all questions, and that's something that he's going to have to deal with. He's going to have to address this, unfortunately, because it has become public.
I'm just asking you a question. I won't even talk.
Do you want rewarding?
No, I don't want any reward.
All right, let's go back. He said, so what? So he asked him the question. He answered the question and added more context. And then he tells him, so what? Would you want a cookie? Now, mind you, he didn't say the cookie part. I said that. But the way he framed it was like, okay, well, what do you want, a cookie? Well, you asked me how many hours I committed to doing it. And I told you to end. Like, at this point, like, I don't know. I would have asked him, like, is there anything that I've done? Like, you're talking me in a way in which, like, I've done something wrong. Like, what have I done? Like, I would have asked, like, please don't talk to me in this way. Like, I would have said it. Like, so again, I feel like we have to hold our leaders accountable. Like, even if you don't want to do it in that moment, it was a small meeting. So it wasn't like it was front of the church. So you could have, like, just like person said, can we move on? You could have said, you know what? I don't want to argue. He said that. Pastor, is there anything that I've done to offend you? I mean, at this point, I would have came out with it because we're having this, obviously in front of everyone. You're talking to me in front of everyone. Surely I can ask a question, but he feels like he's being argumentative, that no matter what he says, even though he's being asked questions and he's responding to the questions, he's saying he's being argumentative. It's just a strange dynamic here.
So I don't want anything. I'm just here to do my work with you. That's it.
Pastor, no one spent the amount of time that what your email indicated we should spend. None of us.
Want me to read it again?
No, you don't have to, sir. I have it.
Everybody else got it?
Yes, sir.
Maybe he's the only one, for whatever reason, speaking up. Because I can go around the room and ask you how much time the rest of you spent on it.
Okay, so now he's, trying to hold everyone else accountable for whatever wasn't done, obviously. Though he did commit a lot of hours according to his word. But obviously it's not up to whatever standard that the pastor has set in his mind. But sometimes, you have to show. And, telling maybe isn't sufficient. If people aren't, maybe if they're not, I don't know, manifesting your vision, the vision that the Almighty has given you, if that is the vision that God has given you and not your own vision, then maybe you have to take it a step further and show them exactly what it is that you need from them. Because we all learn differently. And you do have to have patience. But like I said, when you've been in ministry for 40 years, 30 years, especially when it comes to leaders, I mean, there is a different dynamic when you're dealing with your leaders. And I will say for me and my experience, the dynamic is different because there should be some level of maturity amongst the leaders versus if you're dealing with someone who is not a leader or someone who's a lay member and they're more more of a babe in Christ. So, like I said, he obviously was in this position for a year. He said he was sent to assist with the vision. Again, we don't have any more in terms of context regarding what the relationship was or is, or how long he's been at that ministry. We don't know any information, but all we hearing is part of a conversation that this person is choosing to record, which could be unfair to both parties, unfortunately. But here we are having a conversation.
Would you like me to do that?
Talking about the email. Anyone that wanted to make a comment, like to buy.
When you start listing out hours, you're on the wrong side of the track.
Well, he asked him specifically, like, how many hours? And he said he didn't know at first, which he didn't want to state specifically, but he felt a sense of obligation to answer the question. So if you bait him with a question and he responds to it, then again, if he's being obedient in the sense, you know how it is in a lot of churches, people want you to be obedient because obedience is better than sacrifice. So you have to do what the pastor tells you to do. Being that you did ask him a question, he felt a sense of obligation to answer it. Then no, he's not on the wrong side. In this moment, he's being obedient by answering the question. I just feel like that it just seemed to me, based upon what's happening. Again, we don't know. There's supposed to be some type of baptism. Again, this is God's business at the end of the day. Yes, some people have a righteous indignation. In this case, I'm not sure what's going on. It seems to be something else underneath the surface to me. The gentleman that he's speaking with, that he's reprimanding in a sense, is the only one that's speaking up. But there seemed to be an issue with this team. It doesn't seem to be. I think he seems upset with them all. But it's just in the conversation, since the guy is talking back or answering, responding. When I mean talking back, meaning he's the one that's answering and responding to his inquiries, and he's interpreting that as talking back. Maybe that's why the others have been, around him, because they've only been there a year in this capacity. We don't know if it's his membership in particular, but in whatever capacity that he's serving, the gentleman's only been the one that's being currently reprimanded. It's only been there a year. Maybe everybody's been there longer. Maybe they know not to answer because they know how he is. So it's like, again, we still have to go back to the leader and say, hey, you're the one that's leading us in this process. Your temperament is important. That is a fruit of the spirit. You know what I mean? So we have to have self-control. And that even comes to our emotions, our words. We have to have self-control. Let me not spend a whole lot of time on this. The other one was like almost 50. Okay, we're coming close to the line. All right, guys, let's continue. We'll get done with this. Trust me, we will.
I'm not listening. I'm not doing that, sir. That's not
You just did
that's
it.
what I was trying to do. Pastor, I'm not trying to do that.
He was attempting to answer your question of time spent. Again, this is just move on.
Okay, so you hear the person again. Let's just move on. Again, they're coming in defense of the person that is answering the questions. And the person is just answering your questions. Can we just move on? Okay, so it seems as if that person is kind of like coming to the defense, not really defense, but they just maybe they just don't want the strife. You know what I'm saying? They know that this is not the way it should be. And so, this person just kind of wants to move forward and continue so that they can get whatever needs to get done.
It's just move on.
I'm so weary with it. I can't live. I'm so weary.
Now he's saying he's so weary he can't live. Now, like I said before, there has to be something else beneath the surface here with Pastor Rod. There has to be something else, because again, I know that we can become frustrated, especially when things don't go the way we want them to go or the way we think it should go. And if you've told someone 100 times, 50 times, 20 times, even your own children, you get tired. You tell them about 50,000 times to do something, you become frustrated, right? But take it a step here. It's something else when you say, I can't live. I'm so weary with it. I can't live. I'm so weary. There's definitely something going on. Whether you need to take a vacation, you need to have some type of break, you need to be seeing a counselor. I'm really concerned about our leaders. I really am concerned about them. I feel like they're so accustomed to giving and giving and listening and giving and giving and serving and giving and giving and receiving that they don't take time for themselves to get what they need mentally and emotionally, my mental health related, emotional, whatever. They don't get what they need. They need more than that praise and accolades. They need more than a tithing envelope or a love offering. They need more than just a helping hand. We are all human beings that consist of our mind, our will, and emotions. That's our soul, our spirit, and our body. Okay. And so there's something else going on here that is becoming more obvious as we listen to this recording.
Megan and Lori called a meeting on Sunday because I directed them to. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
I sat down and wrote this. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Why should I have to do that?
You should not have to do that.
Add up the salaries in this room.
Like you said, it's obscene.
Beyond obscene.
Something's obscene. I don't know.
So we're either going to perform to that level or we're going to do something else. All right. I'm ready to hear about baptism. Thank you.
Do you want to start with marketing or follow up or?
What I wanted to know is how many of these 18 people that this other so-called department here has made such a god-awful screwed up. How could you plan anything?
Wow. I wonder where the rest of it is. There has to be more somewhere, the conversation. I don't, again, we don't see, we don't know, we're not there. How bad it is, if it's bad at all, if clearly it's not up to his standard. He's the leader. So we don't know. Like there's so many questions I have. So many questions. I mean, the upside is there are 18 souls that they're preparing to baptize. Obviously they're trying to maybe get more souls to baptize, because she mentioned marketing and some other tools to try to get more people to come. I don't know if it's that they're having economic problems and that's why he's stressed out. I don't really know, but what I do know is that this here, it's a sign that there has to be some type of intervention. I don't know if it needs to start within his family or whether within maybe the elders. If he doesn't respect the people that's on the team that he's currently speaking to, if he don't have enough respect for them, that he needs to speak to maybe some people that are elders, that have seasoned, that have been around for a little bit longer. Maybe he needs to have conversation with people that are on the board, that he needs to have a conversation with that he respects, because the tone, I can get being frustrated. It is possible that what we're hearing is frustration. What we're hearing is a response to whatever wasn't done. He wasn't happy. But the way by which he was talking to the guy that was brave and bold enough to at least respond to his questions while everybody else was whispering and just they didn't want to trigger him, is clear. It's clear that they've been around him long enough. It seems like there has been a pattern formed, and it seems like they have been the ones that are whispering. They're long enough to know that there's a certain tone that he doesn't like, and so that's why they're choosing to whisper, because it may trigger him. Where the guy that's only been there a year maybe feel like, listen, you ask a question, I'm gonna answer it. Like, I'm a man just like you, man. I respect you as my leader, but I'm not scared of you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But all I do know is that we're having a conversation when we should be talking about Jesus. Okay. We should be talking about those 18 souls and more that will be added to the kingdom of God and discipleship, right? We should be excited about that. We should be having a conversation about that, not about a leader berating and being recorded berating a member or a servant leader trying to serve his vision, and he's being reprimanded in front of a group of people. And the rest of the group is kind of being reprimanded, but they're just opting not to enter into the conversation, where you can't even barely hear them on the recording. And so we shouldn't be having this conversation. But the real truth is that this does happen. And I've heard worse. I heard worse. I heard worse. Why? Because we're dealing with human beings, right, that are not perfect. Am I giving him a pass? No. I think that whatever's beneath the surface, whatever it is that he's dealing with, that he's getting weary, they need to deal with that. That sounds like a mental health issue. Yeah, that sounds like a mental health, that he's burnt out or stressed out about something. Either he needs to take a vacation or have a conversation, something, because it's just not good. There's so many leaders that burn out, and after a while you got a scandal, because they don't find refuge in Jesus or his word, or they don't get the time alone that they need, or the vacation that they need, or the counseling that they need. So they defer to some type of vice. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be adultery or sex with, who knows, pills, prescription meds. You know what I mean? They could be secretly, smoking weed or something. Who's to say? Or they may be addicted to porn or whatever. But it's like, if they don't get what they need, they're going to turn to something that's not good for them as leaders. Lord, heaven help. So we would definitely keep Dr. Tony Evans lifted in prayer. That was the first video, was about him. And then we will definitely keep Pastor Rod Parsley. This is part 2 of our church news and commentary segment, our new episode on news and commentary. And hopefully, they both will be healed and restored, and I'm sure that Rod Parsley, he may, speak on this since it has become public to add some context to this. But at the end of the day, even if he does add context, his tone and the way by which, and you know what, sometimes we got to record people so they can hear themselves, because sometimes leaders can hear themselves and they think that it's okay to speak that way, or they feel like it's okay to treat people that way, and they don't think anything of it. They don't think it's a problem, or they themselves have suffered through something very similar and they're a product of their environment. So I just feel like we, as the body of Christ, as I forestated before, we need to understand that we are a part of a greater community. Since we're now all connected to the World Wide Web, we are on the internet. We are connected to a much larger community beyond our local church, beyond our local teams, beyond. It can be an interview that has been recorded. It can be a conversation between you and another, or a small group that could be recorded. It could be you in a pulpit, a sound bite that has been recorded and then it's taken and it becomes viral and taken totally out of context. That's where we are today. So as a result, we got to measure up to the stature of Jesus Christ when it comes to our temperament, when it comes to the fruit of the Spirit. And that's something that we need to all work on, especially our leaders, because our leaders are supposed to be leading us. They're supposed to be an example to all. And I'm not saying that, leaders don't get frustrated. Leaders don't get tired. They don't get burnt out. They do. They do. That's why you have to you have to be careful and make sure that you take care of yourself. You have to take care of your mental health. You have to make sure your stress is reduced. You have to make sure that if you don't have a team, you really have to make sure that you don't overdo it and overstress yourself or wear yourself out, and you can't take it out on the people. And if it's something that's not done right, then as a leader, sometimes you have to go and model. You have to show people. Just giving them instructions written is not sufficient. If you're not happy, sometimes you have to, listen, let me show you exactly what it is that I'm looking for. All right. And then once it's been demonstrated, okay, people should then at that moment take it on as a pattern. Now, if they're a leader where they'll tell you one thing, model it, and then when you do it exactly the way they want you, they may flip on you, then that's a mental health issue. And I go right back to that mental health issue where nothing makes them happy, then it's time that you have a meeting. And if he doesn't accept it in a meeting, because he said he called this one, then you call a meeting, And if he doesn't accept it, then the church needs to be brought in and have a whole church meeting, because we can't function in this way. There's a reason why we're at the height that we are of notoriety, and then we have the numbers that we have. Now, there are some people that have small numbers and they love on each other, and it's the best church in the world. Okay. So having numbers is not an indicator that it's the right church and everybody's functioning appropriately. Having less numbers is not an indicator either. So let's be clear. I don't want people to say, well, you don't have anybody. That must mean you're not treating anybody right. No, here we have somebody that has a very large church, and he's a evangelist, and he's been around the world and but yet he's not treating everybody right. So no, numbers don't necessarily indicate success, or progress. So, in terms of everybody walking, according to the stature and the measure of the fruit of the Spirit, you know what I mean, of the qualities of Christ, which we all should have that as a standard. That's a marker for us, that we are to mark the perfect man, and the only perfect man we know is Jesus Christ. So yeah, let us continue to keep these men lifted in prayer. Like I said, this is common in churches. It does happen. And so my question is, well, what happened after, the recording was shut off? Was there an apology? were they all able to move forward and do an excellent job? Like I said, there are moments when it's stressful and people may say something out of pocket or, out of character. Maybe that's the one time. Maybe this only happened once and he was recorded. Who's to say? Maybe this isn't something that is norm. That's the norm. But I'm glad that we're talking about it. All right, so let's keep them lifted in prayer. That's all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you. And I guess I'll see you next time. God bless you and shalom.